Señor presidente, tiene usted la palabra.
Muchísimas gracias. Excellencies and distinguished delegates. Excellencies and distinguished delegates. Before I begin, I must express my deepest concern over the deteriorating security situation in the Middle East. The attacks by Hamas on Saturday resulted in an escalation that left hundreds dead and scores more wounded in Israel and in the State of Palestine. I join the Secretary General in stating unequivocally that violence is not a viable path forward. It offers neither sustainable peace nor prosperity for any involved. This is a path that has proven to lead only to more bloodshed, more conflict, and more tragedy. In most cases, these are innocent victims, women, men, and children, who are paying the price. I call for an immediate cessation of violence, for all parties to exercise maximum restraint, and for all stakeholders to engage in diplomatic discussions to de-escalate the situation, to protect civilians, and to chart a path to a two-state solution that offers peace, progress, and prosperity for all. Your Excellency Ambassador Carlos Daniel Amorin Tenconi, Permanent Representative of Uruguay, let me begin by congratulating you, Chair, and the other members of the Bureau on your election to steer the work of the Second Committee during the 78th session. The critical issues under your purview are at the very core of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and are fundamental to our collective pursuit of global peace, prosperity, progress, and sustainability for all. Year after year, the responsibility of the Second Committee has only grown. While the COVID-19 pandemic is mercifully behind us, its impacts continue to play out across our economies and societies, hence touching upon every aspect of the Second Committee's agenda. Both the Global Sustainable Development Report and the Secretary General's report on sustainable development make it clear that the world is rife with inequalities. The climate crisis is also worsening. Hunger, food insecurity, and debt crises continue to rise in many countries and are expected to worsen, especially for the most vulnerable countries. All while the Ukraine war and other conflicts in all corners of the world grind on, as again evident from the worrying escalating situation in the Middle East. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, in tandem, we need a new way to measure and tackle inequality, a new mechanism for restructuring debt, and a more just international financial system, as economist Jayati Ghosh also called for last week. Understanding these realities, world leaders at the 2023 SDG Summit adopted a strong political declaration, a call to decisive action that the Second Committee should keep in focus to guide its deliberations and negotiations. As you, Chair, rightly pointed out last Monday, calls outlined in the declaration and the guidance provided by our leaders at the summit offer us a to-do list for scaling up progress across the 17 SDGs. The list includes intensifying climate action, financing for development, and key transitions in sectors such as energy, extending social protections and improving education, doubling down on the digital solutions that can spur progress as a whopping 70% of the SDG targets, mobilizing finance and investment, as well as the means of implementation, especially for developing countries, which face a staggering $4 trillion annual investment deficit to achieve the SDGs, as well as countries in special situations, reforming the international financial system, building on the SDG stimulus plan, addressing climate finance, and moving beyond GDP towards a multidimensional vulnerability index as a unique measure of vulnerability. The good news is that we have the plans and tools required for success. Our blueprint, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, together with the Sendai Framework, the Paris Agreement, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, the Samoa Pathway, and our common agenda follow-up process all point the way towards our collective resilience. However, what is urgently lacking and therefore needed now is the political will to fulfill our commitments, especially those made during the recent SDG Summit and the high-level dialogue on financing for development. The Second Committee is perfectly placed to catalyze action. But let me also stress that this year the Committee for Program and Coordination was not able to agree on 10 programs, which the main committees should now consider. As I also implored the first and fourth committees last week, I urge you, Chair, and the committee as a whole, to urgently examine the relevant open programs and share your conclusions with the Fifth Committee as soon as possible so that the latter can take your input into account. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, let me conclude by emphasizing that I look forward to your important contributions throughout the session, including to the preparations for the 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States, the 3rd UN Conference on Landlocked Developing Countries in 2024, and the joint GA-ECOSOC thematic debate on the LLDCs that we hope will provide the political and substantive impetus for the 3rd UN Conference. On this basis, as USG and High Representative Ms. Rabab Fatima has mentioned in her address to you last week, I have taken the strategic decision to relaunch the Advisory Board on SIDS, LDCs, LLDCs, and action in that regard is imminent. I am confident that working creatively and collaboratively, we can strengthen and improve our multilateral system, and we can build the capacity for sustainability. What is paramount is that we keep those who are furthest behind at the very heart of all we do to ensure a brighter, more resilient future for all. I wish you a productive session, and I look forward to the successful conclusion of your deliberations. Thank you.
Doy las gracias al señor presidente de la Asamblea General